You are listening to New Theory Radio. Theory Radio.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of New Theory Radio. My name is Nav Nanwa, and I am your host. This is the show where we theorize on all things current affairs, pop culture, and everyday life, here live at the CFRE studios, as well as on iTunes. And I'm very excited to bring you another edition of this wonderful podcast with two esteemed guests here joining me in the studio. I got first on my right, he's someone that I went to Turner Fenton with. Woo! And I just spent the last hour catching up with him because it's been quite a long time since 13 years, since we last connected. And now he's a Mississauga City Hall correspondent for the Mississauga News.
For the Mississauga News, yeah.
My boy, Ali Raza. Ali, thank you so much for joining us here on New Theory.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Really looking forward to picking your brain, not just about what's going on in the world, but what you remember most about Turner Fenton.
Oh, yeah. I'm open for that.
And then joining me on my left, he is actually someone that was on the pilot episode of New Theory Radio.
Episode 0.
Episode 0, yeah, the lost episode, which is available on www.newtheoryradio.com. He's a good friend. He's a former city council candidate.
Oh, come on. That's not what I want to remember as.
That's what I want to push you as. And he's currently on the Bramptonist Podcast, which drops, every Wednesday?
Every Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah, depending on the day.
Or week. Yeah.
My boy, Sushil Tailor. Sushil, how's it going, man?
It's going pretty great.
The beard's coming in nice, I'll say that.
Thank you.
You got a little touch of gray in there too.
Yeah, it's like gray at these
it's
dignified. Right, right up my around chin area. I just want to wait until it becomes gray.
Like fully gray?
Fully gray, like Amitabh Bachchan.
Yeah.
Right,
like
if
you
say something, I know to listen to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks very distinguished with his speck of gray as well as his gray blazer.
I've been working on my beard since high school.
Really?
Nice.
Eh?
No, it's looking great.
Doesn't happen. I was going to say, man, it's been a while since I last seen you, so I was going to compliment you on the progress you made since high school on that beard.
I'm still waiting. Somebody got me some beard oil the other day.
Oh, did they?
And I'm like,
does it work?
I'm like, are you serious? And he's like, you never know. Just try it. I'm like, what am I supposed to put it on? Like, what do you want me to do here?
I guess with hopes that if you apply the beard oil, the beard will just naturally
Somebody
grow.
told me just keep shaving it, and that hasn't done anything. So.
Yeah. I've used beard oil, obviously, on my beard, and it had an agent in there that helped it actually grow and fill out. Yeah, maybe I should give that to you.
Yeah. Just brush some on. Beard oil is it's just cologne for your beard.
Pretty much. It makes it smell nice.
Yeah.
Your significant other would appreciate it.
It makes it so that your significant other wouldn't complain about you having it.
Yeah.
Right.
And just so your stash doesn't smell like what you had for lunch.
Oh, I was going to say, I didn't know beard smell was a common issue. No, not really.
Not really. No. Mustache smell can be, though.
Yeah.
Because I guess if you're eating something that requires slurping, like ramen.
Yeah, see, when I hear this stuff, I'm like, you know what? I'm fine with this.
Yeah.
No, you just got to trim it.
Stubble.
Yeah, you just got to trim your mustache area so it doesn't dip into what you're drinking. And, Uncle G eats rice and there's all pieces of rice.
Oh. Yeah. Hey man, it's a skill to eat with a beard. Trust me, I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
But no, I'm honestly super stoked to have both of you on. A lot of interesting things have taken place this week that I know I think all three of us will have a lot of opinion on. And one of the first topics that I do want to address is the fact that Facebook yesterday announced that it is banning white nationalist and separatist content from the actual social media universe that exists within Facebook. It's a major story as it really stems out of the horrific New Zealand mass shooting that took place a few weeks ago. And it's no secret that since I would say the Trump election, Facebook has been under fire when it comes to sort of the content that's feeding to different users. And to see it make a strong statement like what we're seeing now against white nationalism and separatism, to me, does speak a lot of volumes considering how people actually use Facebook, but also, to the fact that this content is everywhere now. and we've even seen it here locally, in Peel region, specifically in Mississauga. So what I want to do is pick both of your brains on this and see what is your theory on Facebook making this decision, and do you find that this is going to have any positive effect moving forward when it comes to blocking out this content from our lives? And Sushil, maybe we'll begin with you.
Deplatforming is, I think, one of the best things you can do when it comes to hate on the internet. I think one of the big reasons why is because, you can start your own say if you're a white nationalist and you can host your own WordPress blog and you can write your own hateful, garbage on it. But the problem with, having Facebook sort of, allowing it on Facebook and using this sort of free speech mantra to allow it to be on Facebook is that it's the scale. The audience scale of Facebook is huge. It's in the billions, I believe. And what that does is it allows you to have this information reach wider audiences. And on top of that, you have this bubble going on where if you click on one thing that's white nationalist, then you know what? The next thing down your feed is also going to be white nationalist. So it has this effect where it will radicalize people over time. And so removing that content immediately, because I think before what they did was they tried to, find a difference between white supremacy, white nationalism, and white separatism, and it was really stupid because all of those things are predicated on the so-called superiority of the white race or something like that.
Where are they separating from?
I don't know, right? It's weird, right? And so getting rid of anything with respect to this space on Facebook will do some significant damage in terms of kind of removing clout that anybody may have.
Yeah,
in
I
terms
definitely
of getting
agree.
their hateful voices out there.
Do you find that maybe Facebook was one of the reasons we did see a huge rise in this content?
No. I think Facebook is more or less just the place where the audience, where everything kind of festers. Really, the reality is that you have websites like Reddit and 4chan, which is where a lot of that sort of white nationalism, begins. Like a lot of these new ideas, memes, or whatever. That's where it begins. Facebook is really just the place where it propagates.
Facebook's usually the last place where any of that stuff that's been made on the internet shows up.
That's the case with any meme, though. It doesn't have to be white nationalist. It could just be a dank meme that's funny.
Yeah. I'll see stuff on Reddit days before it shows up on Instagram or Facebook or anything like that.
Exactly.
But it's kind of scary because I remember when the New Zealand shooting took place. Actually, a former colleague of mine from Rogers TV, Janella Massa, who's killing it on City TV.
Oh yeah.
Actually, screenshotted a post around this so-called racist or white supremacist, whatever you want to call them, talking about how to conduct lone wolf attacks on Muslims, on females, on anyone who's going against what they believe in. And that was a screenshot from Facebook, and I remember seeing that and being very disturbed that was a post that was so freely available. And even when you think back to the New Zealand shooting, the perpetrator was on Facebook Live when they were doing it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see just how far this really went for Facebook to make a decision like that. But it's also troubling to know that Facebook's not the end all be all in all this.
No. At the end of the day, Facebook's a business, right? So they're every decision they make is guided by there's business principles and business aims and goals that they make that decision in, right? They could have very well have removed a lot of the hateful content that's on there, years ago, but they chose not to because it wasn't getting it wasn't noticed in the media. People didn't really look at it as badly as they do now. And at the end of the day, if it's getting them hits, if it's getting them traction on their website, they're going to leave it. Personally, I'm a little cynical to anything Facebook announces, because it's like an unprecedented level of power that company has, along with Google and the rest. But with Facebook, sure, you've banned stuff that says white nationalist, or you've banned stuff that says I'm proud to be white, or whatever it is. But people are smart; they get around it, right? Generally speaking, with humans, when you ban something, they find a way around it, and that's honestly, it's sad to hear, but I honestly think that's what's going to happen, right? Whether it's already on other platforms unfiltered, And on Facebook, they'll just filter it even more, right? You know, they won't call it white nationalist. They'll call it something like Unite the Right, right? And it comes into kind of the general rebranding that's occurred with what our parents' generation and people before them would have recognized as white supremacy. They've rebranded it to alt-right, which is like alternative right wing. But
yes.
But you know, growing up, in my head, right wing politics was like, hey, you know, don't tax us this much, and you know, we don't want to like spend so much on social services and kind of stuff like that. And then it just slowly kind of inflated into now when you hear someone's like, oh, I'm right wing, you're just kind of like, should I be careful? Like, what do you actually believe?
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And so yeah, it's just absurd to me that they call it the alt-right. And the best is you know, guys like Richard Spencer and Jared Taylor and all these white supremacists in the United States, they'll go on about, you know, our people, we want an ethno-state, you know, your whatever, that whole like white genocide myth that they think they're getting outnumbered. They'll go on about that, and in the same breath, at the end of it, they'll be like, oh, but I'm not racist. Or, oh, but like, you know, or, oh, I'm not a white supremacist. Or, oh, I'm alt-right. And I'm like, bro, you can't just rebrand what you are and say like, oh, I'm not that. You know, it just doesn't make any sense. And so that's what's happened. And there's going to be people that fall for it, right? Whether it's filtered on Facebook or unfiltered on 4chan, right?
Yeah, and that was actually another question that I had was, if we're seeing this content get eliminated off of Facebook, do you see this living somewhere else? And it seems like both of you have answered that already with the fact that Facebook was never the prime means. It seemed like Reddit and 4chan were the ones that were really driving this conversation to begin with.
Yeah, but it's a good thing that it was removed off of Facebook. I think another point is just that, you know, the genocide against the Rohingya in Myanmar.
Yeah.
That's something that was propagated. Like a lot of the hate for the Rohingya was propagated through Facebook.
Almost entirely through
Facebook. And Facebook knew this, and Facebook did nothing, right? It
makes the money.
The reality, the reality though is that, you know, in some ways, Facebook is the equivalent of the radio stations in Rwanda that, you know, fomented hate.
That's a great
right.
analogy.
That's what Facebook is. And that's what Facebook can be, you know, when you have that wide enough audience. And so just, you know, the fact that it's tackling white supremacy, banning that sort of stuff, great. I think it needs to extend further. It needs to, they need to understand the social responsibility they have in other nations as well, where there's a lot of hate festering towards minorities as well.
I like that comparison because I always compare kind of the internet, social media, radio to the original kind of printing press, right? 500 years ago, printing press happens. Europe tears itself apart because all of a sudden everybody reads the Bible and they're like, well, wait a minute. And so, you know, as you go on, the newspapers and then radio, the main difference though, and even in the internet that you wouldn't see this, the main difference with social media is it's so centralized, right? With the internet, anybody could make a website. With the radio, anybody could have a station. You know, with the newspaper, anybody can have a printing press. Facebook is you know, like you mentioned Myanmar. There's people in Myanmar that don't know the difference between Facebook and the internet. They just think it's one and the same.
Wow. And
it's because of that you have such strong centralization and almost complete dominance of that sector that, you know, the average layman doesn't know the difference between social media, internet, Reddit, 4chan, Facebook. It's all like, oh, I click and this shows up, right? Even before the 2016 election, I noticed that there was a lot of quote fake news coming up on Facebook, and I didn't call it that at the time. I just called it, you know, garbage because it was you know, it'd be something that's kind of showing that itself from the Washington Post, but the URL underneath would be like wash dot something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It'd be like a fake URL, and I would immediately catch it and be like, oh, this is not worth my time, and then I'd move on. Little did I know that other people would kind of give it attention and then read it and then decide their vote by it, right? That's something I really downplayed before the election, that I think, you know, no, people are smarter than this. They'll know that this is fake.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, no, they don't.
Yeah, you just need to cast like a wide enough net, and you're going to, you know, catch idiots.
You'll catch someone.
Yeah, it's the same thing with like phishing scams, for example, right? Like you're going to be like, oh, well, this is very clearly not my Gmail login. And you just, you know, but people don't know. Like they'll get caught.
But yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, Ali, regarding the news that was popping up on Facebook. Because I remember Facebook, I think around that time, introduced trending topics, and then they had a news reel going.
And they changed from like the the chronological order of things to the algorithm version.
Yeah.
And like I'm all of a sudden I'm seeing the same, like, you know, you look at one person's profile for like a day and then Facebook's like, hey, you know, they bought a dog.
Yeah.
Like, this is weird. What's going on? Why do you? And yeah, and even with the Instagram and Twitter and all, even Reddit, all of social media kind of went away from the chronological display of things to what they think, what the algorithm that they've programmed thinks that you'll engage. And generally people engage things that they're outraged with, right? So if I show you a picture of a puppy, you're going to laugh and then maybe like, but if I show you a picture of, you know, a massacre or anything, any news about anything that's horrific, you're engaged, you're Googling, you're opening tabs, you're all over the place. You want to know everything about it. And all of those social media platforms know you're doing that. And it just feeds the algorithm. It's like, oh, this person loves stuff about the Rohingyas. Let's show them more. Let's show them more. And it just feeds the hate, and it grows bigger and bigger and bigger.
I find like that's the biggest issue when it comes to big data and just data collection is that you could be someone who's maybe not a believer about certain things that are going on, but maybe you're curious to learn more. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, when you're consistently fed that information, it may trigger something that you're not used to.
And not just that, but
seeing.
like on the internet, if your universe just becomes a bunch of content that reinforces other beliefs. Yeah. Even like, say if you didn't completely believe in a certain idea, but then you keep getting fed content that makes you believe in it slowly and slowly. Like in your head is going to construct this universe of things that make sense, even if those things are asinine. And that's what Facebook does, right? Like if Facebook's your only mode of consuming content, and you're only getting news that, you know, gives you a certain worldview, that's how you're gonna think, and you know it will only give you more things that conform with that worldview.
No, I agree.
And I think it's fed even more because like what do we all do? I mean, I don't have Facebook anymore, but what do we all do, and what did we all do when we saw any post on Facebook? We go to comments. Right, everybody I know is always reading comments, and you read comments. 99% of comments are just
garbage,
absolute garbage, right? And you know, and then someone's like engaged, and then Facebook's recording that you're engaged, and all that stuff is recorded, and it's just to get involved in a comment thread, arguing with someone, and just smashing your keyboard out of rage because somebody on the other side of the world says something stupid. Like it's just you could have just and I tell people all the time, I'm like, you wake up in the morning, you check your phone. And you see something on Facebook, and you're outraged.
Yeah.
So you could have just avoided that whole... you could have gone and made a coffee. You maybe like go for a walk your dog, do something, kiss your wife, do anything. But no, what you decided to do is you opened your phone, you looked at Facebook, something outraged you, and boom, now the whole day is ruined. And like, it's just weird to me that we're addicted to getting pissed off. Like we're in this situation whether whatever side of the political spectrum you are on. We're addicted to getting pissed off because of social media.
We're in that nature where we want to not only do we want to get pissed off, but we also want to comment on it. We also want to renege against it. Yeah. We want to just have a voice.
We want to be an activist for 5 minutes and then move on with the rest of our life.
Well, last question before we move on to the next topic, and that's simply, I find it fascinating that, you know, you do have other outlets like Reddit and 4chan that do exist that are going to continue to foster this type of content that we're seeing that Facebook's getting rid of. Do you think other social mediums are going to follow suit? Like, do you see, you know, Twitter is obviously a big one where there's a lot of racist trolls on Twitter. I've actually been a victim of racism on Twitter as well, just indirectly. Just I may have commented on something and all of a sudden you get these trolls reaching out to you. Do you think, do you see a Twitter or an Instagram following suit? Maybe Instagram a lot easier because it's in the Facebook family, but, you know, what are both your thoughts on that?
Twitter, I think it will probably have to follow suit. Usually they try to follow the same rules, but the big problem with Twitter is there is a huge space of right-wingers there already, and they don't want to touch that hive's nest. And if I recall correctly, the CEO of Twitter has been, asked many times to deal with this issue, especially with the harassment of women. And
which is endless.
Endless harassment of women, and they haven't given any tools to tackle it.
You're off Twitter, aren't you?
I am on Twitter.
No, you're not. You're still on Twitter?
I'm always on Twitter. I just never
I tried
really
tagging
cared
you today.
about
It didn't work.
Oh, okay. It's because I changed my Twitter ID.
What is it now?
It's before it was Vote Sushi, now it's Aburi Sushi.
That makes sense because
Yeah.
I think I tagged a random Sushil Tailor from India.
Oh,
in my
oh no,
tweets.
no, no, no. Okay, actually, no. I know why. It's because I changed my name to S. Taylor.
Oh,
right?
gotcha.
It's because I am interviewing places.
Fair enough. That should tell you all you need to know about Sushil's Twitter account.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
But no, I it's just kind of with Twitter, they won't, again, they know that Donald Trump, for example, being on there and tweeting away just inane banter, they love it. Not only does it get some revenue, but it gets some attention. It gets some more followers. If people are on, what did he say now? What did Donald say now? Blah, blah, blah. And so I think the big push with Facebook, and why specifically Facebook was like, okay, you know what, we got to do something about this, is because that the attack was live streamed. I didn't see the video. I saw screenshots. But people I've spoken to who've seen the video are like, oh my God, I've never seen something like that. Like it was just so horrific and so cruel and just so like, you never would have thought that something like that would just be live streamed on Facebook, and so that's the kind of big thing. Like, 100% they had a board meeting over that, and we're like, oh my God, what the heck?
Basically, Black Mirror stuff, if you think about it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
something you'd find on there.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's a real episode of Black Mirror.
Yeah.
Think about it.
And I mean, places like Twitter and Reddit don't really have that.
Twitter has a live stream.
They have a live stream, but they don't have that like something horrible happened on our platform.
Yeah.
Like, no, we don't need to, right? It's just absurd to me that the stuff that goes on Twitter is allowed to go on, and they're just okay with it.
I will say this though, like I have been reporting a lot of hateful things on Twitter lately. Like I've been on Twitter a lot more often.
You click report,
but like I've just I've been clicking report, and I've actually seen like the reports be resolved and like the content be deleted.
Yeah.
So they're pretty good at reacting.
Well, they were image content though. That was the one thing. So it might have made
generally easier
to deal with. But they do give you the option to report things based on hate, which is already a good first step.
Yeah.
I think what Facebook did in particular was focus specifically on white nationalism, and I hope Twitter follows suit.
Yeah.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
Don't we all? Be interesting to see as we go into a federal election here in Canada, but then also get ready for the U.S. election next year, what steps are taken, because I think these two are going to be prime examples of where you're going to see a lot more of this pop up. And I already called it, when we were entering into this federal election, that you were going to start to see some of this nationalist content here within Canada. And it's no secret that's already taking place. Changing topics now, I want to talk about personal debt. I actually stumbled upon an article in BNN titled "Drowning in Debt, Freaked Out Canadians Brace for a Reckoning."
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, none of us. I'm sure none of us are experiencing debt right now. But pretty much it talks about Canadians and their debt issues. And when I was reading the article, what I got out of it was the fact that more and more Canadians are still in debt, and they one day hope that there's going to be a massive financial crisis and there's going to be bailouts, and then everyone is just going to be okay. I myself own property, so every time I talk to someone about buying property, anyway, I didn't mean it like that.
No, I didn't mean that. We're gonna talk about debt. Let me tell you about the property I own.
Hey, trust me, this property is making me go into debt.
That's what they do.
But it's interesting when people are talking to me about the housing market cooling, warming up. Right now is a good time to buy. Right now is a good time to sell. Being millennials and all three of us sort of being at the prime of our lives right now from a millennial standpoint, there's just a lot of debt that's going around and a lot of pressure in being able to clear that. I'm sure there's people within our age demo that are still dealing with student debt, that haven't fully paid it off yet, still dealing with OSAP, still dealing with a whole bunch of things that are just piling up as we go on with our lives. So I wanted to pick both of your brains on this and get your theory on whether or not you think it's getting better, whether you think that people in your network are getting a lot smarter when it comes to the personal finance and being able to understand their current situations. And do you find that people are being more proactive? And Ali, let's begin with you.
I don't. So I don't think the general kind of debt crisis is getting better, right? Just because generally everything is just getting more expensive.
Totally, it is.
Whether it's a chocolate bar, whether it's your car insurance, whether it's a house, it's just getting more expensive, and wages aren't catching up. And that's kind of like common knowledge for the last 30 years. Stuff's gone like I don't know, 4 or 5 times the price, but wages have kind of struggled to catch up. But I think, especially with millennials, we've kind of forced ourselves to learn how to live with less. And I don't mean like we still buy a bunch of stuff, but I think we our priorities on what we'll decide to buy kind of really reflect, even when you look at the market. Like, when was the last time any of you guys bought something from Bowring? Or, you know what I'm saying? But we all know, like, all of our parents' friends bought stuff from Bowring, right?
Yeah.
So it's
my mom's favorite store.
Right. It's my mom's favorite store. It's everybody's mom's favorite store, but it's not any millennial's favorite store. And
For millennials, it's IKEA.
And that's the difference, right? And I think millennials, what they'll do is like I think, and I'm speaking for myself, I'm speaking for other millennials I know, is we're happy to go into debt if it means we can travel. Because that's something we kind of value more so than I think our parents' generation did. Especially if your parents are immigrants, because then they have a whole other mission statement for why they're what they're doing. So I think it has a lot to do with that. And I think one thing I will say that millennials have got to stop doing, especially myself included, is we got to stop with like skip the dishes and Uber Eats. Because like,
it's such a cop out.
It's such, man, like
but it adds up.
It adds up. Our parents used to cook all the time.
I mean, it adds up in terms of like calories,
everything. If you think about it, but if you think it's like a cyclical thing, right? If you think about it, like, oh, I'm tired, I'm going to order skip the dishes, and then you order it, and then you get those calories, and you're like, oh, I need a gym membership because I can burn these calories off. It's like, if you just went home and like made some dal, you'd be fine, right? Like, and that's the thing is my personal challenge, and I know everybody's facing this, just given the popularity of skip the dishes and Uber Eats, is you gotta get back to the kitchen. You gotta learn to cook. You gotta cook more. You gotta cook every day.
It's funny you mentioned that. A couple of things I wanted to touch on based on your response, Ali. Number one, I've always been told by my dad, and I guess this was a thought that he had when he first came to Canada, was that I should always carry $100 on me at all times, $100 cash. I don't think I've done that for like ever, because I don't believe in carrying cash on me. Yeah. I always just seem to rely on plastic, and now even my phone, and the fact that my credit card's on my phone. But I find that we're built with the fact that we should be putting everything on credit, because most of the time when it comes to credit, you're getting points, and you get to redeem those points to get different perks. As well, there's this notion that you're maybe saving money by using a credit card, and ultimately you're able to budget properly versus spending cash or using your debit. But there's people I know that just don't realize that at the end of each month they have to pay off that credit card and just go ham every now and then and get the alcohol tabs at the club or order Uber Eats every night because they just don't have time to cook. It's interesting how that all adds up.
Well, I think it's like because you need to build credit.
You do.
If you're 16, 17, 18 and you're like, oh, I'm gonna get a credit card, that's a horrifying prospect for anybody. But that kid needs to build credit, right? If you hit,
I don't think you can get a credit card when you're 16, aren't you?
Maybe not 16. I think
18. Yeah.
The 16-year-old credit card, you're like, it's with your parents or something.
Yeah.
But I think I was 18 when I got mine. But yeah, you had to build credit, because if you come to that point where I have money for a down payment, they check your credit score, and it's like, well, you haven't shown, besides you paying your phone bill, you haven't shown that you can do this. And a credit card is the easiest way to do that. But that comes to like, well, how many people are spending $20 on their credit card and then transferring $20 over immediately, right? Like, I'll try.
It's very hard to do.
It's very, very difficult.
Yeah, and I mean, like, even if you wanted to do it, it's difficult because the apps just don't allow you to do it, right? And on top of that, sometimes your purchase will clear like days later. Right, which is another thing.
Yeah.
I've noticed that like it's become a bit harder to save the more I started using my credit card. Mm-hmm. When I used to use my debit card religiously for everything, and I actually didn't have a credit card, that's when I saved the most amount of money
I found that
in my
too.
life.
Of course.
And I think the main reason is simple. With a credit card, you are borrowing from your future self. End of story. Like, even if like you are planning to pay it off, 2 weeks from now or something, like every paycheck. You're still borrowing from your future self. Yeah. And, the way you think about the money then becomes a bit different. Whereas if you are paying with your debit card, you're paying with what you currently have as a finite resource, rather than borrowing this like supply of money from the future to make it feel as if you're slightly richer.
The future's
right?
infinite.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, what I try to do now, at least for the most part, is in economics, especially when it comes to like public finance, there's this common rule where it's like, okay, well, if you want to conduct deficit spending, make sure it's for something. If you want to borrow money to fund something, make sure it's something that benefits you in the future, right? So if it's like an entire subway line, the subway line takes 10 years to complete,
Right.
then you should use deficit spending to fund the subway line,
Right.
right? I feel like in my life, I try to apply the same, like, and then if it's something that's more or less immediate, like if you're just giving people money now to help them, that should come from like a surplus or from like a fund of money, right?
Yeah.
That's the way I see my credit card and my debit card, personally. And I think it helps a lot. If I look at my credit card and I think, okay, well, am I going to get this delivery in like a month? I'll use my credit card. Fine. Right? Is this something that's like my education? Then yeah, it makes sense to get a loan for your own education.
So if it's for your future self, borrow from your future self.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So if it helps your future self, then yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Incur debt. If it's personal gratification right now, like, I don't know, skip the dishes.
Yeah.
Use your debit card.
Man, I wish more people thought like that, because I find that people aren't doing that.
Yeah.
No.
They're more so living in the now and not
Taking
thinking
from the
about
future.
Yeah. Not really thinking about the
Yeah.
repercussions. There's so many people within my network that just still do not have savings accounts, still do not save any money from their paycheck. They're living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
And I get it, the cost of living has increased, but if you look at the expenditures that we spend on a regular basis, there's obviously things that we can eliminate. And I didn't actually start feeling it till last year when I was out of work for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I actually spent the time budgeting, and it was just, me and my wife. She had the only household income at the time. And that's when I took budgeting seriously. And I'm glad that I've taken that with me now that I am working full time again. And I find it's kind of helped me manage my money better. But before that, I just, no idea. I was just kind of living in the now and, knowing that I had to pay that credit card bill once a month. And if it was high one month, it was fine. But it was just one of those things where it never came across my mind.
The one thing that really pisses me off is just how you're trying to manage your payments. There's no centralized way to manage your payments, right? You have maybe like 5 different services you're attached to. You have your phone bill, you have your Netflix account, you have your, maybe Spotify. Yeah, you have your hydro bill, if you live in a house, and you have your rent. You have all these different things. They're all, chunking money out of your account every month at its own like time. Yeah. There's no centralized location where you can say, hey, these are all the payments I have to make within a month, and there's no way to manage that. It's like you have to go on these like individual sites.
It's micromanaging the whole time.
Yeah, and then sometimes like you can't even go on their website. There's no clear way to do it. You have to call in. I feel like that's something that really gets in the way of people managing their own finances.
I literally have like a on Google Calendar.
Yeah,
I have like every date where I have a bill payment due or a bill payment coming out. I have it marked. Yeah, and then I have a separate document where I have like a full list of what's immediately upcoming.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that changes. Like, I need an oil change.
Yeah.
This is an immediate upcoming thing. And it just kind of like shows you on one place everything you need to pay for in that month. It's equally terrifying as it is helpful. But at the same time, it's manage it, right?
Yeah. But at the same time, like, I mean, I'm a software developer, so for me, user experience matters a lot, right? And if you think about it, you have all these individualized services, but your user experience when it comes to just managing your bills is chaos. And if people have no time on their hands, or some people may not have time on their hands, managing that can be incredibly cumbersome. I feel like, a simple solution should just be the government saying, okay, do you provide a subscription service to Canadians? Yes. Okay, you should use this particular standard that allows all Canadians to manage all of their payments in a single spot, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
I think that's why people who use their credit card wisely, I think what they do is they get all of those payments just net pre-authorized from their credit card.
Yeah.
So in your head, it's just like, I got to put this much on my Visa every month because everything's coming out of there. But sometimes some people don't do pre-authorized payments.
Yeah.
Sometimes it comes out of your checking account.
Yeah.
Or sometimes. So I get what you're saying. It's just kind of like it's all over the place, and you spend so much time just getting it organized that it just kind of turns you off from the whole experience.
And then like one thing might take you 5 minutes to set up.
Yeah.
The other thing might take you an hour to manage.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And then sometimes 3 hours if you're on a call, if that's how you got to do it.
I find that once you get into the habit, it gets easier, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
And I think for me, I started using Excel when I was doing my money management. And now it's really just for the next month, just copying what was done the month prior, adding in what the new credit card balance looks like, and going from there. You know, but it's also surprises me that it took me, you know, close to 30 years to figure that out.
I know.
I was sort of doing mental budgeting for the longest time, and then it wasn't until I was in a situation where I wasn't working full time that I had to do that.
I tried my dad's strategy, which was like, just don't spend money.
Yeah,
that doesn't work, right? That doesn't work because like that was his strat, and it was really effective for him. He just wouldn't spend money. He's like, I don't need to buy that.
Yeah,
and you'd move on. And I'm like, yo, but I really want that. Like, you know,
I know.
completely
the impulse buy, man. I think that's the biggest problem with people in our generation when it comes to personal finance. It's just the impulse. And you know, when you think about going back to social media, when you think about the pressures that Instagram puts on everyone to try the latest restaurant or go to the latest trip.
Instagram wants me to buy one of those thin metallic wallets.
Oh, okay. The magnetic ones?
Yeah. I don't even know why, because I've never once mentioned it. I was never like, I never told my wife.
Did you talk about wallet?
Never. I love my wallet. I've never been like, oh, you know, I don't like this wallet or I want to do it. It's just all of a sudden they were like, hey, you're kind of between 25 and 35 and a male. Maybe you'd like this metallic wallet. I'm like, I don't have $100 to spend on a wallet. Like, what is this? Like,
do you do a lot of budgeting on your phone?
I budget through, like, you use Excel, so I use Google Sheets. And Google Docs.
Okay.
I do that through
Could
my
be
phone.
it.
Yeah.
That could be it.
But yeah, how invasive are they getting? Like, geez. Like,
that's a whole different theory, man. It's a whole different conversation.
Oh, man. That should have been the previous
I know, but it comes down to the fact that, well, why do we impulse buy? Well, it's all in your face. Like, I remember I downloaded the Amazon app last year or something when we first moved into our house.
You have Prime?
And yeah, I got Prime because I'm an idiot. And so it's just like,
it's the best decision
It's
ever.
so good, though.
I know, but it was just like,
Prime streaming is whatever.
I was so blown away that all I had to do was like click, click, click. And then money was going from my credit, like click, click, click. Money was going from my credit card.
Thankfully, like I've been very good with Prime, and that I barely buy anything from Prime.
Yeah, I'm better now.
Problem is, when I do buy something from Prime, it's like an HTC Vive.
Yeah.
Right? Or like, oh man, it'll be like upwards to like hundreds of dollars rather than like small accumulative stuff.
But I think that's you have two simultaneous things going on, right? It's easier for us to buy things.
Yeah.
It's more in our face, but we are more aware that, you know what, we don't make as much money as our parents' generation did, and things cost way more. Like, we all live in Brampton.
Yeah.
We all pay car insurance.
Oh fuck.
Right? Yeah. So it's
I kind of live in Brampton.
You
I actually just last week was because you know how I was talking about earlier, like I was complaining about how there's no centralized method to handle your payments.
Right.
Car insurance with Aviva done through RBC is one of those things, right? Where you have to, it's like, it's clearly offered through Aviva, but no, you have to call RBC to get anything done. And then RBC has like no online platform to deal with your car insurance through his other.
It's almost like they don't want to talk to you.
Awful.
They just want to take your payment.
Yeah. And then they also ramped up my car insurance by $70. And I've had nothing.
Yeah,
year.
mine was ramped up by like $30. I was like, what the? I didn't do any. Actually, a ticket got off my record because of the time duration. So I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And, man, I did the same. I used to live in Guelph before I lived in Brampton. I was like, okay, you know, same distance, same car, same everything. Address is different. That's it. My premium went down $200 a month.
Wow.
It was a $200 difference in my premium. And
from Guelph to Brampton.
Nothing had changed. It was just I used my dad's postal code instead of mine because my dad lives in Guelph, and it was $200. And I was like, wow.
So is the premium increasing because of just the increased amount of auto accidents that are taking place in Brampton?
I think a collection of things. I mean, Brampton has the highest posted speed limits in all the GTA.
Really?
And also, we have high rates of insurance fraud.
Yeah.
Oh, I can see
And
that.
especially the insurance fraud part is the big one.
I'll always remember my experience doing those driver's ed classes and just how easy it was to get those certificates.
Really?
In Brampton, you didn't do your drive test in Brampton, did you?
No, I didn't do my drive test in Brampton, but do you know how you had to do the actual driving course? And that would give you a discount on your premium for insurance.
That's funny. I had a guy, my driver instructor. Yeah, it was like A1 something, A plus.
It's always A1.
It's always like
always A1.
It's not like there's just one
Or it's
A1.
like- or
There's
it's
like
like-
many.
Or it's like all Canada driving school or something like that. But anyways,
I went to Oxford driving school.
I remember the.
Did you?
Oh, yeah.
Oxford had a driving
Oxford
school.
driving
Nice.
Yeah, apparently Oxford. Yes.
But I remember my driving instructor. He was a man from Pakistan, and he would just like he'd get in the car, and he's like, "You don't mind if I put on Muhammad Rafi, do you?" And I'm like, "No, man, go for it." But okay, and like I'm driving, and we're listening to like '60s Bollywood music, and I'm like,
That's
I'm
so
used to this. My
funny.
parents love this stuff, but like, shouldn't you be telling me where to turn? And he just kind of like he's just talking about stuff, like talking about his day, and I'm like. Is he instructing? Am I paying him for this? What's going on here? Like, yeah, and it makes sense, right? Every time we see it, every time you're on the road in Brampton, somebody's driving in like a driver's ed car, and you just tell, like, oh, nobody knows what they're doing right now, and that really adds to it, right? But it's every little thing, whether it's insurance, like I said, whether it's gas, whether it's your mortgage, whether it's your phone bill. Like everything on the board is more expensive than it used to be.
Yeah.
So I guess my last question to close this off, because it sounds like all three of us are taking measures to better manage our finances. What would be the biggest piece of advice you give somebody who's trying to figure it out or trying to at least not live paycheck to paycheck and think long term?
I would say start with food. I would say really focus in on what you're going to eat for the week. You'll find that like the stuff that's cheap, rice, beans, lentils, chickpeas, it's actually healthy for you. Like if you eat rice, beans, and frozen vegetables, like you spent nothing on that meal, and it's actually you're getting everything you need. You won't have to go to the gym and pay that membership to lose the weight you gain, and you'll eat out a lot less and you'll stay full longer. So and if you meal prep beforehand, you won't eat out after. If you're at work, you won't eat out for lunch because you've got the meal prepared. So food is the first, because that's something that's completely in your control, right? I can't change insurance prices. I can't change the prices of a bunch of things, but how much I eat, where I shop, what I eat, and how I choose to kind of organize that's entirely up to me.
So pretty much don't eat, but if you have to eat cheap.
No, definitely eat. You gotta have your 3 meals, but like, don't eat out. Like, stay at home, learn to cook, meal prep, do things like that can really kind of stretch a dollar.
Taylor, what do you think?
Really limit what the hell goes on in terms of your credit card bills. Don't use your credit card for everything. And in fact, try to keep even if like your credit card limit is like $3,000, don't try to keep it like maybe $500 a month. The whole purpose of the credit card is to ensure that you've got a credit rating. That's basically it. So keep that low and really focus on using your debit card for most of your purchases. Because if it's the inverse, then you're going to end up in a situation where you're going to need next week's money to pay for this week's purchases, right? Yeah. And so the moment you're in that particular trap, it's a trap. Once you're in that trap, that's how you're living paycheck to paycheck. Right, you could be making all the money in the world, right? But and if you're doing it like this, you're working paycheck to paycheck, and if you miss next month's payment, next week's payment, that money comes from your savings, right? Yeah. Or if you don't have any savings, even worse. Really limit your credit card purchases. Just use your debit.
Yeah, I think
or
both.
Carry $100 cash.
Carry $100
cash. Listen to Major.
Yeah, I know for a fact my dad would appreciate that. But no, it's great that you mentioned that because, again, I think especially when millennials are in a position where they're making good money, it's very easy to get excited and say, "Oh, I can buy the things that I've always wanted," but then not realizing that when you use that credit card, it's just accumulating over time. So I think those are fair points. And I guess if I want to get in on this when it comes from an advice standpoint, I would just suggest really just finding time every month just to budget, because I find that's definitely helping me. And,
for sure.
And I guess the fact that I was able to figure that out definitely allowed me to have some peace of mind when it comes to finances. Final topic that I want to talk about here on the show. It's no secret with the weather getting better. We're slowly transitioning from winter to spring. Finally, it was quite the winter.
It's nice to see the sun again.
Man, it was freaking cold. So we're seeing the shift into spring. Usually with spring comes the notion of spring cleaning, which for most means that's time to clear out the clutter from where you live. But I know some people, and I've seen some interesting things pop up online regarding a different meaning around spring cleaning, and that's more around mental and being able to apply it to more of your emotions and things that aren't physical. So whether it be, getting rid of toxic people in your life, whether it be getting rid of things that aren't making you happy, whether it be changing up a routine to get more efficiency out of your life. It seems that a lot of people take this notion of spring cleaning and try to apply it in different ways in their lives. So wanted to close out the show just to pick both of your brains on what spring cleaning means to you. If it is simply just getting rid of old t-shirts that you had from your undergrad and donating them to the local Goodwill, that's fine. But if it's something more, I'd would love to pick your brain about that. And Ali, let's begin with you.
Sure. So I'm fairly neurotic when it comes to cleaning. So by the time spring rolls around, I'm pretty okay for all the physical stuff.
Yeah.
My garage is clean, my backyard's clean. My wife hates it, but the neuroses, but she, it's clean, right? Even my desk and everything. But I find the more I do that, the more inward, it's messy inside. And I find that's the kind of stuff I like to focus on. And it's not just when it's spring, right? And whenever there's a new season or new month or new year, you get that motivation to kind of okay, what can I do? And so I find personally is, I don't know if you guys have probably heard about this. I try to do activities, more and more activities that keep me in flow, kind of keep me completely focused on task. And I find for the long term, it's really good for my mental health. It's really good for my well-being. It's really good about how I think about things, how I see the world. And so a good example is, I mentioned rock climbing during the break. So summer's coming up, spring's coming up, right? Now I have those chances to go out and go with my friends and climb up near Tobermory, Niagara Falls, Rattlesnake Point. Another thing I tried with my wife is we'll try, depending on our schedules, we'll do yoga together.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's all there was a few days there where I was waking up and literally I was doing yoga for half an hour and then I was meditating for 10, 20 minutes. And the day was just so peaceful, afterwards. You're stuck in traffic, someone cuts you off in the 410 and you're like, oh, it's fine, whatever. Whereas the same thing would happen on a day where I wake up flustered and in a rush and it cuts me off and I lose it, right? And so I kind of try to focus inwards and on things well, how can I become more calm, or how can I be more rational in this situation, or how can I kind of get rid of that bias that I had? And that's, to me, that's kind of what the spring cleaning that you're talking about. That's how I would take it.
Sushil, what does spring cleaning mean to you?
I literally need to gut my closet.
Yeah,
no.
Actually, hey, nothing wrong with that. I did that a few weeks ago, and I feel
when
great.
When you say closet, do you mean your mind, your soul, your spirit?
Oh, we're get super deep. The meaning of closet.
No. Literally
closet.
my closet. No, my closet's not that messy. The issue is the way I try to live is I already try to have as little as possible. I don't have a lot of things to my name.
Do you live like a minimalist?
I guess you can call it minimalist.
Yeah.
It's just I don't have an interest to buy a lot of things outside of electronics.
Right.
And even then, it's I'm not going to buy a massive stereo system. So the extent of my electronic purchases will be I'll get a graphics card. So, I will, put that into my computer, but it doesn't really create much of a mess. Right. After you're done all of that, It doesn't create any clutter. It doesn't really add too much to my house. Everything still kind of looks pretty empty, especially in my room, like my heart. I just
now we're getting deep. Now we're getting deep.
No, but
let us know what you think Sushil means by his closet as well as his room.
No, but for example, when I was trying to get a new bag, I would actually focus on getting a very small bag. Or a bag that only fits a laptop, and that way I don't start putting a lot of stuff in.
Yeah.
That's one thing, because I realize that when I have larger storage spaces,
you use it.
I use it. It ends up accumulating. Yeah. So I have a walk-in closet, and
you can't walk into it.
Well, I mean, I can walk into it, but sometimes laundry accumulates.
Right.
Right. Yeah, and then you end up with just a lot of clothes, and I realized I just have to get rid of all of these like a lot of these clothes. I don't wear them anymore in many cases. Or if I do wear them, it's more like, oh, I'm wearing this because like this is not washed, right? Which is not a good reason to wear something necessarily. Like I think you should enjoy, like I think you should find joy in what you're wearing, according to Marie Kondo. But
I was gonna say, like, I feel like you've watched Tidying Up on Netflix.
So like I actually do just need to go into my closet, clean it out, and that way, like, my laundry load is just gonna be so much more peaceful. Like I just want to make it easier to do chores.
It's just like washing the same clothes you never wear.
Yeah, like I don't want to like. So really, it's just very practical. I just need to clean out my closet.
I actually did that a few weeks ago, and it felt nice.
Yeah.
I felt like a weight got lifted off my shoulders, because part of the reason that I never used to do it before was because I used to live with my parents, and it was a big house, and I would just store stuff and forget about it.
Yeah.
His room, right?
Yeah, living in an apartment with just my wife and I, and we share the same closet. Yeah, it's caused me to do this exercise quite regularly now.
When you say you share the same closet, do you just really mean you have 10% of the closet?
No, I mean, she probably has 10%.
Oh, wow. I mean, you dress really
Yeah.
fancy.
I'm quite the retail fiend.
Yeah, I share my closet with my wife, and it's just mostly hers.
See, I'm sure if you asked my wife, she would want more of the closet.
Yeah,
but it's hard, and I keep too much stuff in there. But it feels nice to declutter. And I haven't seen Tidying Up with Marie Kondo yet.
Oh, it's great. Yeah,
but I heard it's very eye opening.
The idea is that if you have less stuff, you're just gonna have less clutter, which is true.
What is it that she said? Like, she picks up an object and says, like,
well, before you throw it away, you give thanks to the object, and then you neatly put it away in the throwaway pile.
In the throwaway pile.
Yeah.
Is that therapeutic?
Well, no. It's actually okay. So, there's a Japanese folk, like a Japanese in Japanese culture. There's a thing called Shinto. It's Japanese folk religion, and the belief in Shinto is like, over time, the possessions you own kind of grow characteristics of their own. Like they, kind of imbue like a part of some sort of spirit to it. So like when you're throwing something away, you can't just do it casually, right? It's not. Right. It's kind of like it goes kind of against her,
you're being rude.
You're being rude to it, right? Yeah. And so that's essentially like, so it comes from a very like Japanese place, and that's also what really makes it interesting to watch that show, right? Because it's interesting because it's a sort of idea you wouldn't really see come about in the West. This sort of view on. This sort of view on materialism, this sort of view on minimalism, you wouldn't see it come out of the West. You wouldn't even see it come out of like, certain parts of Asia. It's really like a distinctly Japanese thing. And I think Marie Kondo could have only come about from Japan as a result.
But even that minimalist documentary on Netflix did open up a lot of people's eyes when it came out. Yeah. I remember a lot of people watching it and were very much influenced to live very minimally, getting rid of the excess that surrounds them.
Yeah, well, I don't think we know we can do that.
Yeah.
Right? Like every time I see something on the internet about like, someone who like completely repurposed their huge van into their house.
Okay, like, that's I think an insane level.
It is like a completely next level. Yeah. But I look at that and I'm like, this isn't really that bad, right? Like, you could he's got everything he needs. I mean, he probably just goes to the gym to shower. And I think a lot of it has to do with we all have our own limits to how minimal we can become. Yeah. Because let's face it, we grew up in Canada. We're kind of spoiled, right? Yeah. I like hot showers, like and stuff like that. And also like because we do things that require us to own things, right? Like to believe it or not, I don't like having a smartphone on me all the time because it's distracting. I'm always checking things. There's a million different things you can do on it, but I always have to have it on me, right? And so that's kind of it. To a certain extent, there's only so much we can quote throw out. Yeah. And so I just kind of, it's a bit like when you go like back to social media. It's a bit like when you're like, oh, I gotta delete my friends because I haven't spoken to this person in ages. And click.
Oh, all those people like go on Facebook cleanses and Twitter cleanses, and they always make the effort to announce it. Yeah, it was like, FYI, I'm cleaning out my Facebook list. Yeah. Apologies in advance. I was like, why would you want to broadcast it?
Yeah, I've never really. I don't know why you broadcast a cleanse, but
Even like the unfollow cleanse too. It's like, hey, I'm going on my yearly unfollow.
Yeah, or I love it. If you see this, you're still on my friends list.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean that's obviously you're just doing it for kind of to get some traction or some
probably.
attention. But yeah, I mean like that's good. You actually have some physical stuff to clear.
I'm
out
actually talking
you have
about
some legitimate spring cleaning, not some.
there is
mental
legitimate
health
spring
therapy.
cleaning. Yeah,
But
yeah.
you know, I have done some spring cleaning on my phone though.
Yeah,
Like,
Oh, I need to do
apps,
that.
You gotta do
Photos, like unnecessary screenshots. They're taking up memory.
Photos take so long though.
Yeah, photos take a while. Even videos, like the amount of times that you just want to like go and do a bit of a video cleanse is crazy too.
It's just
You know, speaking of this, my Google Drive actually filled up last week.
Really?
Yeah.
That's 50 gigs, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Well, it was 15 gigs.
Yeah.
Which is still a lot.
Yeah.
Right? And it's shared with your Gmail. And I had a lot of unopened emails that I had to gut.
you have
And
50 gigabytes of emails.
15.
Oh, 15.
But, like,
that's still what
that's still a lot, yeah.
What emails?
This
are
is
you
all
getting?
text,
Yeah.
right?
It's all text. Oh,
Yeah. So it shouldn't but it was like 7 GB of email. And it's just, I realized that I had a lot of stuff. And I tried to clean it up and it was hard. And so I actually purchased the next tier of storage.
I did too.
Yeah.
I actually for 2 years I would go and delete all my promotional emails, all my update emails, like stuff I didn't need from LinkedIn. I unsubscribed on everything that was social media related that was clogging my inbox. Yeah. And then last year I got so fed up. I was like, fuck it. I'm going to go and just pay the $1 a month to get that extra storage because I find this very annoying.
That's funny. I have a completely different issue with Google Drive because my Gmail is like, I keep on top of it. There's like maybe 30 emails in there, and I know what like 29 of them are. But I use my Google Drive to store stuff from work. So I just have a growing repertoire of audio recordings and stories I've written and stuff, and I'm just like, oh no, I need more room. But like, man, I don't want to pay for yet another thing. Like,
I know. I already paid.
You don't Metroland doesn't give you.
Well,
I used to work at the Star. You should be able to get Google Drive.
We have our own kind of like internal server that I can store stuff on, and some people do. And then obviously I have my work computer, but like I just like to keep stuff on with me, right? So it just.
You should be able to log in to Google Drive using your Metroland email, by the way.
Yeah, but that's I went into there once and I was like, there's like a million like it was obviously
all these PR requests.
Yeah, it obviously had been used by several other employees.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, I'm just gonna stick to my own.
Yeah,
it's funny that we talk about email cleanses because I find that when I was trying to delete old emails, I got into the email black hole where I started reading old emails from like 2010, 2011. And I was like, wow, I can't believe, number one, I used to write like that. Yeah. But number two, like the stage I was at, like during that time, like of my life, like I remember 2010 especially was like, I was fresh out of undergrad, not knowing what I wanted to do. Some of my early like networking emails were like horrible. Like, I'm not surprised as to why some of these people never responded back.
Yeah, no kidding. I get that. Like, so at work, I'll often get like emails from journalism students, and they're kind of like, "Oh, for a project, I got to talk to you or get an interview, blah blah blah." And you see, just not all of them, but how poorly worded or poorly written the kind of those initial cold emails are.
Yeah,
and I'm just like,
they're gonna be great storytellers.
And I'm just like, it's just so funny too, because like you see some students will be like, oh, I just want to like, can you just send me the answers to this? Wow. And other students kind of want to have like that conversation. But I know what you mean. Like even if you go back on social media and you see some earlier posts of something you wrote, and you're like, was that me? Like this wasn't me. Like this was 5 years ago. Like holy crap. Like But it's good. It shows you that growth. It shows you that change in yourself.
Yeah, one thing that I find super daunting is doing a social media cleanse. Like, I'm not just people that I interact with, but just old posts. Yeah, I find that if, God forbid, I was to run for office one day, that would be one of the reasons why I wouldn't.
Oh, I'd be screwed.
Because of just being able to go deep into your old Twitter, Facebook. And somebody will.
Well, okay, there are some good news. Like, you can set it so that all your old posts are set to private. Just so you can
really,
see
is that separate software, you can do that or is that through Facebook?
No, that's through Facebook itself. Wow. So you can do that. And number two, with Twitter, what you can do is there are some third-party apps where you can just completely gut your entire tweet history.
Oh, really? Yeah. And just start fresh.
Yep. That's what I did before I ran.
Really?
Yeah.
You can't.
But it didn't work,
yes.
though.
Now
No,
we can talk about
because I
Sushil
said
running in the
crazier
2014
things.
election.
Yeah, can we talk about this?
It was
'Cause
actually
I wasn't-
after that I started saying crazier things to piss people off.
I covered the 2018 municipal elections
Yeah.
here, but I wasn't here for 2014.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Oh my god, I didn't run in 2018.
No, that's 2014 is what he mentioned.
But
right?
we
Yeah.
actually met because I interviewed Sushil
Yeah.
when he was a candidate.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
And then I remember him telling me during commercial break that he was not even trying anymore.
Now, were you running for city or regional?
City.
City. Okay, so
Yeah,
you
yeah.
were up against
Doug Willens.
Doug Willens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doug Willens' dad is a big deal, right? So.
Yeah, I didn't even like campaign at all.
No, he didn't.
Not a single
Yeah,
door
so
knock.
you definitely got
Nothing.
You
I got 200 votes.
Somebody was like, "Oh, he has my son's name." Click.
Yeah. There aren't a lot of Sushils out there. But yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so
It's like, well, if he doesn't win, he can always fix my suit.
I'm
Yeah.
assuming they were just like people I went to high school.
Taylor, yeah.
I'm assuming it was just like a bunch of people I went to high school with, and they just saw
Maybe.
my name and they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay.
Sushil's running?
Oh, so she was very good.
Yeah.
Oh, no way.
That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah."
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But
it's interesting to find out what people do to use this time to cleanse of or declutter, if you want to call it that. Because I find that people now are almost using this as their New Year's resolution light in a way,
Yeah.
where it's like, oh, spring cleaning, I'm going to try to go to the gym more. I'm going to do this. And it's like, no, you made that promise 3 months ago.
Yeah,
It's too late.
Yeah. No, it was cold though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was cold. Yeah, it was freezing. We
Yeah,
had
it was cold.
record lows in Ontario.
Let's be real though. It's hard to do shit when you're cold.
It is. It
You know,
totally
like
is.
I it's so much easier for me to wake up when there's like a sun shining on me
Yeah.
versus like, oh, it's 9 o'clock. I'm at work and it's still dark outside.
Yeah.
You know, so it kind of spring auto cleanses your brain because you're not seeing, and it's not like December's great. You know, the first snowfall is great because
Yeah.
it's like all white and all crystalline, and you're
It's
like,
cute.
oh, it's cute. By the time February and March hit, you're really just seeing like piled up gray snow
Pretty much.
over and over and over again in the
Yeah.
dark. And that's miserable, right? And then
Yeah.
spring comes, and then flowers. You're like, "Oh man, I have grass. I didn't even know that."
That first sunshine is epic. I
It was
remember,
fantastic.
like, I think it was Monday when I was driving to work and the sun was out,
Yeah.
and it was like I felt it on my face. And
It was
it
5
felt good.
degrees the other day.
Felt
I
great.
sleep in.
Sunshine.
I sleep in on weekends, and so
And you
I
feel
hate
the sun on your face.
No, it's because like I have like these really large windows,
Yeah.
and the blinds don't actually like. There are no blinds up like on the top part of the windows
Right, yeah, I know what
because they
you're
don't fit appropriately.
Right,
so what
right.
happens is I actually get baked awake. Right?
Oh,
Yeah, it's
gotcha.
terrible. Like it.
Oh, so you get baked
I
awake?
baked away, not like smoking baked.
Just I love how you put. I love how you
Literally,
put
like it's like an oven.
that. Yeah.
It's terrible. I dislike the sunshine. I'd rather remain a vampire for the rest of my life. Oops.
Well, maybe spring cleaning isn't your. Maybe winter cleaning is your thing. Then.
Yeah. Well, on that note,
Yeah.
I wanted to thank both of you guys for joining me on this
Yeah,
episode of New
thanks for
Theory
having
Radio. And yeah, I guess where can the audience that's tuning in now and that will be tuning on iTunes, where can they reach out to both of you? So Ali, we'll begin with you.
Sure. Well, I don't really like most social media, but work requires me to be on Twitter. So you can follow me on Twitter, which is @reporter_Raza, RAZA, reporter_Raza. And then I'm on Instagram, mostly because I guess that's really the only place where I see other people nowadays. So you can follow me there.
That's the only place he creeps people.
Yeah, it's the only place I can see what people are up to. But you can follow me there on RAZAA, so Raza A 88. Pretty self-explanatory. And yeah, so there you go.
Sweet. And Sushil, where can people reach out to you?
Sushil.tailor@gmail.com, I'd say. And
Just send him an email. Don't even
send him
tweet
an
him.
email,
Don't
yeah.
even Instagram him.
He's
Just
got plenty of room on his Google
yeah,
Drive.
he wants to use that extra
And
storage.
yeah, you can also find me on the Bramptonist Podcast, bramptonist.com/Brampton Talks. Brampton Talks is a single word. There's no hyphen.
Yeah, and you guys were. What was the latest topic this week?
Latest topic this week. Oh, geez, I don't remember. Oh, there was a lot.
Was it the budget?
It was essentially the budget. It was
Yeah.
Mississauga trying to exit again.
Yes.
Oh, that's
Um,
consumed my life.
Miss
it's
Exit? Is that what we're
Miss-
calling it?
Miss
Can we,
Exit.
can I just say, can we not call it anything that sounds like Brexit?
I want to because
No.
Brexit's stupid.
No.
And
Because
Mississauga.
no. It's called Regional Governance Review. That's what it's called.
Oh yeah,
right?
okay.
No, because once you start
So
calling
RGR, call it
things,
RGR.
once you start calling things that aren't it, like it was the Affordable Care Act, and then it became Obamacare, and then it just people didn't even know that those two were the same thing. It's the same thing with Brexit. It was Britain leaving the European Union, right? We don't like words, so we shorten it to Brexit. Nobody knows what Brexit is. Nobody knows how it's happening.
But it's a buzzword.
But now,
buzzword,
Mrs.
yeah.
Exit.
I've heard Mrs.
The
Exit.
connotations are now Brexiteer.
I've heard
and so
Brexit.
people think Brexit is dumb, therefore Mrs. Exit is dumb. That's
a whole other episode, man.
Yeah.
That's consumed my life.
And then, do you want to promote your Facebook page?
Which
Secret one?
ones? I have a lot. You can find me on, I guess, Urban Memes, Crushing NIMBY Dreams. Yeah.
You actually just unveiled yourself, right?
Facebook.com/Yimby Memes.
NIMBY stands for Not in My Backyard, for those who are wondering.
Yeah, so it's a meme page. We often talk about, it's myself and a couple other folks,
That's
and
funny.
we talk about city building mostly, right? And hating NIMBYs that try to make city building hard for the rest of us. So, yeah.
Awesome. And if you want to connect with New Theory Radio, it's at New Theory Radio on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you want to connect with me on Twitter, it's at Nanwa, and on Instagram, it's at Nav Nanwa. I almost forgot for a second. And yes, I wanted to thank again both Ali and Sushil for joining me for this episode. And I wanted to thank you for tuning in, whether you're tuning in live on CFREradio.ca or on iTunes or on www.newtheoryradio.ca or .com. Sorry. Leave us a review. Let us know what you think of the show. We have an exciting April mapped out for the upcoming episodes that are coming up. So definitely stay tuned in, and you will hear all of us next time. Peace.
At American University, we don't just hope for change, we create it. We don't just dream of a better world, we make it a reality. With a graduate degree from AU, you'll access expert faculty and connections throughout DC to develop skills and experience to turn your passion into purpose. And that purpose can make all the difference in your career. Discover the difference a degree makes at american.edu/grad school.